All of his films have led up to this.
There's nothing quite like this film.
There's elements of those great mythic stories in all great stories.
Just having this feeling of like, I'm watching something really special.
Have you lied so many times that you don't actually know what the truth is?
In fact, not only a danger that it will collapse.
Then there's redemption. Going home is about becoming whole. Well, hello and welcome to the Golden Thread. It is great to be with you guys here today, and we're very excited because Christopher Nolan has just recently released the Odyssey on film, and so we're very excited to get to see that. And so in celebration of the release of the Odyssey, we wanted to have a conversation with someone who is well known to me because he's my brother. And so we're going to have my brother Josh on, and we're going to talk about the films of Christopher Nolan. So we're going to kind of go through, and we're going to go through the list of which are our favorites, and we're going to go from the bottom all the way up to the top and discuss the films of Christopher Nolan. So it's a lot of fun. And so Josh, I just want to welcome Josh to the show. Josh, thanks for being with us here today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I think that the love of movies, a love of stories is something that I think we share. And I know watching movies together is something that we've been able to do, and that we've found to be, I think, a shared source of bonding. And we both love the films of Christopher Nolan specifically. I don't know, would you say that is he your favorite filmmaker, or not sure?
Oh. I think so. I think maybe he's tied with who is it? Villeneuve? Dune?
Denis Villeneuve. Yeah, Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah. He's up there for me, but I think Nolan probably takes the cake.
100%, and it's an exciting year because we have the Odyssey from Christopher Nolan, and then we also have the third of the Dune films from Denis Villeneuve coming around Christmas time. So it's going to be a really interesting year, especially in terms of like the awards race and things like that. Yeah, and then also Steven Spielberg had Disclosure Day this year as well, so that was kind of a big deal for him as well. And so a lot of big filmmakers. So yeah, we love movies, and we love Christopher Nolan. I think that the Odyssey, we're super excited for the Odyssey because I think in a lot of ways this is one of the greatest filmmakers of our generation, if not the greatest. Really talking about and handling and grappling with one of the greatest stories of all time, one of the really foundational myths on the world scale and also of Western civilization. So and it's getting great reviews so far. We have not yet seen the film, and we're going to actually see it this week as of this the week of this recording, and so this will come out a little bit after the fact. So we won't be talking about the Odyssey specifically today, but we will release kind of a bonus sort of reaction episode and review of what we think about the Odyssey coming up a little bit after. And so we're excited to get to go see that. We're actually going to go see the Odyssey at the AMC Lincoln Center down in New York City on the 70 millimeter IMAX, one of only 40 theaters in the world that can show a film in that format, which is really exciting. So we're excited to take our little Odyssey down to the city and get to go and see that. So that'll be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to it. We're gonna bring a couple of people down with us, but we've got a lot of films to get through. So we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, before we do though, just real fast, what is it about movies that you love, Josh? What is it about movies, and maybe also anything you even particularly about the films of Christopher Nolan that is especially something that kind of speaks to you? Is there anything kind of in particular about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I would say, there's something about films and books, but films especially, that can kind of transform, can kind of just capture you and, get you locked into a story. Um, and yeah, and I think too, like an early memories of like us, we would watch Lord of the Rings. I remember
Mm.
that like being a very like staple moment of like, all right, this is just super captivating and addicting, and the storytelling is just so cool. And in that realm of like fantasy stories, I think with Nolan, I'm trying to think what my first Nolan film that I saw was. I think it's got to be the Batman series,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think so. It was The
Um,
Dark Knight that for me, I didn't really know about Nolan before that.
right. And so I mean, growing up on the Adam West Batman, and the more cheesy but adorable superhero films and shows, that was a real cool experience because it was like, all right, this is something that we all know and love. It's Batman, but it's, in a more mature, serious sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no. And I was thinking also, yeah, we definitely grew up, yeah, watching Lord of the Rings together and Star Wars and those kinds of mythic stories, of which I think the Odyssey is definitely one. And, the other one I was thinking of too, you mentioned Denis Villeneuve. We watched Arrival together, even as adults. I
Oh
think that
man.
was something, right? Like, we had connected as kids, watching some of those kind of great fantasy epics. And then as adults, I think we were able to connect again in sort of on another level, watching movies like Arrival, kind of I don't know, there's something about the fusion of the head and the heart, this kind of like, things that are really challenging on a cerebral level, but then also really emotionally deep. I think there's something about
Yeah.
those kinds of movies. And I know some people feel like Christopher Nolan's movies are a little cold, that they're very kind of like calculating and mental. I don't find that to be the case.
I
I mean,
don't.
sometimes, but I think a lot of it is just that his movies are complex, his stories are complex, and if you can get
Yeah.
there, if you can get into it, I think you can get to a lot of the emotional depth, and we'll talk about that as we get to some of these movies here specifically. The other thing I just want to mention as we're getting started too, I was listening to an interview not too long ago with Christopher Nolan, where he was saying that he basically, in a lot of ways, feels like all of his films have led up to this. They have all kind of led up to the
Mm,
Odyssey. And in a lot of ways, he was saying that he thinks in a lot of ways that you can see the Odyssey in all of his stories kind of leading up to this point, which is interesting. And I think I think that's representative of the fact that like the Odyssey is kind of like it's a mythic archetypal story. And that is, there's elements of those great mythic stories in all great stories. And also I think
yeah.
that those stories contain all stories. And so that's kind of the idea of the golden thread that we explore on the channel here, which is like, what are the transcendent things that you can see through all the great stories that brings them together? And I think a movie like the Odyssey, or a story like the Odyssey, is a great opportunity to reflect on what are some of the through lines that we can see through all of these kinds of stories. And so we will reflect on those a little bit as we go. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the movies here. So the one of the hardest parts of this, just going through and trying to like rank these films, was kind of picking like the ones at
Yeah.
the bottom and the ones at the top are really
Yeah.
challenging. There are 12 films, and then the Odyssey will be the 13th, and so we'll go through from 12 all the way up to 1. And just a little bit of here's how we'll do it. We'll go through and we'll each kind of say which one is at our number 12 and our number 11 and so forth. And then if we're in agreement on that, if we both have the same number 12 or whatever it is, we'll talk about it right then and there. If not, we'll hold the conversation until we get to, so if I have one at 10 and you've got one at 5, Josh has got one at 5, we'll hold it until we get to 5, and then we'll discuss it together at that point, so that we can continue to climb the ladder. And the other thing I want to do just for fun here too is to kind of do a little bit of a tier list ranking. So the tier list ranking is like A, B, C, D, and then F. I'm not expecting we're going to have any Nolan films in the category of F. Like, I just don't think Nolan has ever made a bad movie. I'm just going to tip my hand and just say I think all
Yeah.
of his movies are at least very good. But I think we can rank them on a scale of sort of Nolan films, right? Like, not against every movie. Like, I would just put them all in A, honestly.
Yeah.
But against Nolan films, like, what are his A films, B, C, and if there's anything underneath that, we can do that as well. And we can kind of average out, like, if we have disagreement, you really love one, I don't like it so much, we'll kind of put it in the middle, maybe somewhere there. So we'll just do that as we go along. But okay, let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with number 12. And so for me, picking the bottom one was really hard. It's like, what is my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie? Because I love them all. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw out one that might be a little bit of a hot take for some people, even right off the bat here. And that is Dunkirk. For me, Dunkirk takes number 12. Yeah, and I know a lot of people really love Dunkirk, and Dunkirk got a lot of awards buzz, and I think it's a great movie. We'll talk about it as we get to it. But for me, it's actually, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's all the way down at the bottom. And let me just say, that's a testament to what an incredible director Christopher Nolan is. That, you know, a movie that would be anybody else's like crowning achievement and masterpiece, for me anyway, is actually at the bottom, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Josh, can you share with us what is your number 12?
Yeah, I think we're gonna butt heads a little bit on this list. For me,
let's
it was
get spicy.
Yeah, for me it was his first film, Following.
Okay, okay, yep.
Which I watched last night.
Oh, very good.
So you know, I have some opinions on that, but that's where his first time watch. Yep. And yeah, very, very good. Again, I mean, I would say that for all of them. There's not a bad film in the 12, but that would be my lowest ranking.
So first time watching, we just rewatched Following a couple of nights ago to kind of prepare for this as well. Because I had Following at the bottom for me too, but actually watching it on a second time, like one of the things that I think are so great about Chris Nolan's movies is that they get better every time you watch them. And so every time I rewatch them, I'm like, actually, you know what? Like, it's really, really, there's so many cool things about it. And so it actually went up for me a little bit. So let's hold the conversation on both of those until we get to number 11. So I'll go ahead and just say my number 11 is Following. So Following for me at number 11, for Josh at number 12. And let's go ahead and talk about Following. So Following was Christopher Nolan's first film. He had like a little short before that called Doodlebug, which is kind of like Twilight Zone-ish. It's kind of funny with like a little tiny guy. But Following is like his full length thing, which he basically like funded out of pocket for like $6,000, and it's a really remarkable movie. Josh, why don't you maybe talk about first, you know, what were some things that you appreciated about Following, and maybe what were some things that for you maybe knocked it down a few pegs?
Yeah. So first time watching last night, I thought, you know, very good. I appreciate, you know, it's got a Memento feel of sorts.
Definitely.
You know, it's got the black and white. It's got the classic Christopher Nolan's time shift, you know, of playing in the past and then the present. You know, Jeremy Thurible, great. I think that though it felt, I mean, obviously it's a low budget film, so I understand he was working with what he got, but it does feel like, you know, a college art film. You know, it's got some awkward moments. It's got some awkward editing. You know, again, I understand that he was working with what he got, but, you know, so that's, I think, why it was on the bottom for me. But, like, you know, the story is still incredible. It's very intense. There's a lot that I did appreciate about it.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on it. I would say for me, what kind of elevates it a little bit is just the absolute genius of the storytelling itself, like the way that it's told in the non-chronological sort of jumping around, and you're trying to put the puzzle together. It's gorgeous black and white. It's beautiful, kind of, you know, neo-noir sort of a thing. It has a great sense of atmosphere to it. Just the plot itself is it's so intricate and so devious. And for a first film, it's definitely like a proto version of Memento. It's very similar to Memento in a lot of ways. Yeah. Right. But it's great. And you can see echoes of his later movies in it, like all throughout. Like it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of, you know, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I won't give away too many spoilers here because the twists are great, but it's kind of in some ways like the villain of the story. His name's Cobb, which is a name that he reuses in Inception later on. But that villain is kind of Joker-esque in some ways. There's this like kind of like just chaos, and and there's a lot of really cool things going on in there. For me, the reason why I would put it a little bit down toward the bottom is that there's no redemption arc to it. It's that it's like half a movie. It feels like it's genius. It's like, but it is just the descent. It's just like going down into darkness, and then you just, kind of, it just sort of ends, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, wow, it's so heavy. But it is really powerful, and it's really cool. And I was reflecting too on this time around, how about it's kind of about this like aimless young man. It's in a lot of ways, it's very similar to Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, where he's kind of like this aimless, sort of purposeless kind of guy. And he then becomes a victim. He falls prey to being pulled into these sort of self-destructive patterns of lifestyle and manipulation by other people, because he doesn't sort of have like a goal, or he doesn't have something that he's moving towards. So he kind of can get pulled in by that, which I thought was an interesting thing. And I think that there's and one other thing just to say about this one too is I love the degree of like kind of ambiguity as far as like what is the truth, like how do we know like what the truth is. There's like a line toward the end of the movie where it's like, well, truth, like lies can't stand up against truth, and then it's like, I don't know, like what is the lie, or what is and that is part of what I think makes Nolan so powerful, like even in the modern landscape, is that he speaks so strongly to that sort of postmodernist, like, I don't know, what is the truth? I'm not really sure. It's very kind of shades of gray and that kind of thing. So, and I think that it'll be interesting to see with the Odyssey, if he kind of gets into that a little bit with the character of Odysseus, of his sort of struggle to find what it is to be a hero. And so very interesting. So anyway, that's following. Okay, so just as a side here, we just had Josh's cat just jumped on the computer, and what did he do? He turned the computer off?
Yeah, just powered it down. So we're back.
So here we are back. So we just so we had to cut there just briefly. But I wanted to also, as we're going through this too, I have all of the films of Christopher Nolan behind me here. And so, I'm going to see if we can see that. So there's Following, and that is number 11 for me, number 12 for Josh. So as I was about to say, Josh, what is your number 11?
Okay. Yes. Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. Okay. So we're very close. Very close. 11 and 12.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's talk about Dunkirk then. So Dunkirk. So for both of us, pretty far down. A lot of people really love Dunkirk, and there's a lot of great things to say about it. Do you want to say some of the things that you like about it, and maybe what are some of the things that kind of takes it down a little bit for you?
Yeah. So I mean, Dunkirk, just as a film, is phenomenal. I mean, this is a type of film that I'm super into. Like, I love war films. I love, the classics. But I think in his whole catalog, it just feels, it kind of feels just, it doesn't quite fit to me. It's such a great film. I think maybe my expectations were a little bit high as well, and like maybe I had different expectations going in, but it's still so well filmed. It's definitely moving. I mean, Tom Hardy's great in it. The whole cast is good. I guess it just wasn't, when I go into to see a Nolan film, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on it. And it is masterful. It's so tight, like all the way through. It's so tight. It's so tense. I remember coming out of the theaters, having seen it, and being like, feeling so claustrophobic. It was like, came out and we're like gasping for air. It was like, oh my gosh, like I'm back. It's one of those. But I also came out of it at the same time feeling like I don't need to watch that movie again for quite some time.
Yeah.
Like I'd be okay with it. Whereas many of Nolan's films, I come out of it and be like, I could turn around and watch that movie again right now and like get more out of it. It's a powerful movie. It's masterfully done. It is one of the great like stories of history, like a great heroic story. It was kind of Nolan for the first time doing that kind of like epic, sort of filmmaking. I feel like, at least on the war kind of global kind of historical sense from that. But like the story of Dunkirk is amazing. Like it's basically a miraculous situation where, like, essentially World War II could have been lost, like at that moment, like should have been lost. I mean, the
Yeah.
British army should have gotten annihilated, and yet for various reasons, there was like weather conditions and like mistakes made on the part of the Nazis and so forth, that like just, and then the heroism of these like common fishermen, these British fishermen were just like, yeah, let's get it. They all got in their boats and they went and they saved the people. Like, it's an incredible story that absolutely deserved to be told, and Nolan told it, I think, really, really well. But for me, the thing about it that that kind of takes me out of it a little bit is sort of the way that it's very much, it like drops you into the subjective sort of lens of each of these different characters, and it makes it super claustrophobic and super up close. Like, you have the Harry Styles character on the beach, you have the Tom Hardy character in the plane, you have the fisherman in the boat, and it like drops you in there. And it's brilliant the way it does it with the three different like chronologies of like a week and a day and an hour or something like that, the way that time is sort of passing. But it drops you in completely and doesn't give you any big picture. It's just like, it just gives you like, here's what it was like to be on the beach, here's what it was like to be in a plane, and it gives you that, and it's really visceral and really powerful. But what it doesn't give you is like the God's eye view. It doesn't give you the like, here's the grand story, here's the grand narrative. And that's kind of what I felt like I was missing on that. And also, you don't get the like personal connection with the characters, because it just drops you into their experience. It's like, hey, we're not going to tell a whole bunch of backstory about who this guy is or who that guy is or anything like that. It's like, we're just going to drop you into this moment. So it's like, what is most powerful about it is also the thing that cuts, I think, the other way. And I kind of want the bigger grand narrative of like what the story, kind of meant on the world stage.
Yeah, well, and I think too, especially with a Nolan film, is you're like waiting for this either grand twist or grand reveal, which I mean, obviously, it's a historic, telling, so I understand why he did it the way he did, but there's usually some kind of like moral undertone in his films, like, playing with, good and evil and the gray moral area as well. And I think that it was just more cut and dry of just like, yeah, this is what happened, and like this is what it felt like. It was very visceral.
True.
Which is, again, I'm all for it. Just maybe not compared to a lot of his other films.
Yeah, I agree. I think for that movie, the big twist is sort of the moment of relief, like hope.
Yeah.
Like oh, the rescue has happened, and it is a great moment. Like, it is a really great moment. But I agree that it lacks a little bit of that sort of more internal, like getting inside of the minds of the characters, and also I think emotionally, I find it a little bit hard to connect with the characters because just of the nature of the storytelling. So, but I would just say, just to connect it a little bit with the Odyssey, like, it is very much that story of that heroic kind of story of like, here's the guys on the beach, and here is the and the tension of like Kenneth Branagh's character of like of having to be responsible, the decisions that he's making, having to be responsible for the lives of these men, and just the tension of are we going to be able to hold it together, and all the rest, and of course the Odyssey coming on the back of the Iliad, where Odysseus is one of those kinds of generals who has to make these decisions about these men, and then is sort of haunted by the decisions that he had to make, and were these choices right choices or not. And so I think that's maybe a little bit more, some more of the psychological kind of element could come in, which he doesn't really explore so much in that movie, but maybe in some others. Cool. Well, let's go. So that's 11 and 12. Oh, let's sorry, we got ahead of ourselves here. So tier list. Let's do this as we go here as well. Let's do Following and Dunkirk. So on a scale of Nolan, okay, for you, Following, where would you put Following? So A, B, C, then D, and then F. F being like pretty much a failure, A being like masterpiece. Where would you put Following, do you think?
This is tough because, yeah, I mean, to me, all his films are A pluses.
Exactly. I would put them all too, but like
But
Nolan, like for Nolan, if you
yeah,
can, yeah.
I mean, it's it's tough. I mean, I guess I would say C.
Yeah, that's
Feels
me too.
sacrilegious to say,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
agree there. But like on a scale of Nolan, like I would say
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, just to keep it interesting, I think we would put we'd put following as a C. And then what about Dunkirk? Where would we place Dunkirk?
Oof. I guess C as well.
Yeah, I'm going C too. I know that's like
Yeah,
sacrilege for some people because some people just
yeah.
love Dunkirk, but yeah, for us it's a C. Fight us in the comments. Okay, so let's continue on. Let's go to number 10. So number 10 for me, I'll go ahead and say is now we're gonna get spicy
Oh
again here. Now
boy.
I think you and
Oh
I might be
boy.
on a similar wavelength, so I'm not sure, but I think for a lot of other people maybe not as much. For me, it's Oppenheimer. So number 10 for me is Oppenheimer. His most recent, so before leading up to the Odyssey, we had Oppenheimer, which won Best Picture and I believe also Best Director. So just huge Oscar success for Nolan, which we're super happy about. But for me, Oppenheimer actually isn't at the top for me. It's actually down at number 10. What about for you, Josh? What's your number
Wow.
10?
All right. For me, it's Insomnia.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay,
I
we're
know.
gonna
I
get
know that.
yeah,
Yeah, I know this is a big one for you.
yeah. Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, all right. So let's hold both of those until we get to them. So for me at 10, it's Oppenheimer, and for Josh, it's Insomnia. Let's go to number 9, which I'll go ahead and say is for me Insomnia. So we're not that far
Okay.
off. Okay, so we're not really that far. It's just splitting hairs a little bit here. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and let's talk about Insomnia. So Insomnia was one of Nolan's earliest films. I think the chronology goes. Let me look here.
I
Uh,
think it's his third.
Yes, that's right. We've got here it is, Insomnia with Al Pacino, Robin Williams. I mean, really
Crazy.
amazing. Coming off
Crazy.
of the success of Memento, which was of
Yeah.
course a big breakthrough for him, and the next thing you know, he's got this A-list cast. And Insomnia is kind of unique because it was a story that he was retelling. It wasn't his original story, so it's kind of interesting there. But let's talk about So I'll say first of all just what it is. So I love Insomnia. Like I really
Yeah.
love Insomnia. Insomnia for me is one of those where it has grown on me every time that I've watched it. And I love the sense of I love the atmosphere of it. I love how he plays around with concept that he will explore more so in The Dark Knight and other movies about this, like the choices that you make starting to take you down a road. And then it's like, how many of those choices do you make before you can no longer come back from those decisions? And how do those decisions that you've made haunt you? We see this as a theme that's repeated throughout his stories, and those decisions that you make, and to the point where it's like, can you even live with yourself? Can you even sleep? Like that's the whole thing. It's like I can't even sleep anymore because of the decisions that I've made. And how many choices can a hero make before the hero begins to become the villain? I think that Robin Williams in the sort of villainous role is absolutely chilling, and at the same time, like slightly, like you sympathize with him a little bit. Like he's like, even as they're doing that kind of the cat and mouse thing, I think Pacino is great in it. And there's a girl who plays and kind of this like sort of rookie cop that he sort of like Pacino's character sort of takes under his wing, and he's sort of like, don't make the mistakes that I made. And I love that relationship. I love that kind of just very quiet, understated sort of thing. I will say though that there are certain things that make this movie. I can understand why for a lot of people it would be pretty far down the scale for a lot of people. It doesn't have some of those twists and turns that you're necessarily expecting from a Nolan film. It's a very subtle kind of character sort of study kind of thing. So Josh, why don't you talk about what do you like about it? What do you not like so much about Insomnia?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, stacked cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you on the point of like I feel like, and it's so cool. This is one of the great things about Nolan is like his early films are prototypes for his later
Yeah,
films in a lot of ways.
so much
Where
so.
so like the his first two films with Following a Memento, um, have the classic Nolan like twists and like super intense moments, and then with this one he starts to play with the idea of you know despair
Mm,
and like the idea of like failure and the more psychological like what like you said what happens when you go down this dark road.
mm,
I like all of that. I just feel like okay, it's the story of the Dark Knight without
yeah,
the redemption, you
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? And I
yes.
think too one of the things that pulled me down with the film was like as much as the performance was incredible, I couldn't take Robin Williams seriously as a
Mm,
villain to a
mm-hmm,
certain degree,
mm-hmm.
and his performance was phenomenal. I think I've just seen him in too many like comedic roles
Yeah,
that I'm like, this just feels wrong,
yeah, yeah,
which may play to the film's credit,
yeah.
but and then finally, I think that the ending felt a little anticlimactic. Like I
Hmm.
remember finishing it, and I was like, I kind of want more.
Yeah,
Um, that being said, like the pacing is great. It's very intense. I love a thriller.
yeah.
I think I mean, Al Pacino is unbelievable in it.
Mm,
The music I remember being really, really good as
yeah.
well. Kept you on edge.
Hmm.
Um, and I think this is one of those films I've only seen it once,
Yep.
so it'll probably grow on me if I watch it again.
Yeah, definitely go back and watch it again. It's growing on me every time because the first time I saw it, I felt a lot of those things. I was like, I don't know about this one, and then I went back and I was like, oh man, like it is there's stuff there, but that's super good. Okay, so that was Insomnia. Let's tier list on Insomnia. Where would we rank that? I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to go out on a limb and say it for me. Oh, I don't know, man. It's between B and C. Um,
Yeah,
oh gosh, I
B
kind of want
plus
to
or C plus
C
is
plus.
that
Yeah,
an
I mean, I
option?
kind of want to put it at a B, but I would be like, I'd be okay with putting it at a C, like kind of C trending B, sort of a thing. But
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to you. I would want to go with the B for it, but I'd be willing to go C if you felt like it was a C.
Um, I'm all right with B. Let's
Okay,
do B.
we'll go B on that. We'll be generous and we'll go
A light
B.
B.
Yeah, we'll go
Yep.
B on Insomnia. Okay. So that was your number 10 and my number 9. Josh, what is your number 9?
All right, we're at Oppenheimer for me.
Okay, see, we've been very, very close, neck and neck. It's just we have like one slight difference there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, talk about Oppenheimer because for a lot of people, Oppenheimer is like in a lot of people's opinion, Oppenheimer is the greatest movie Christopher Nolan has ever made. It was the one that won him Best Picture, Best Director, whole
Yeah.
slew of accolades and everything else. I mean, it's a 3-hour R-rated
Yeah.
movie about the inventor of the atomic bomb, and it
Yeah.
also like grossed massive numbers at the box office. It was released the same day as Greta Gerwig's Barbie, and which spawned the viral Barbenheimer phenomenon. So it's a big deal, this movie. So talk about what do you like about it and why doesn't it rank higher on your list?
Yeah. Well, right off the bat, Cillian Murphy's like one of my favorite actors. I mean,
He's so good, and he's so
top
great in
five,
this.
maybe top three.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after seeing his role as Thomas Shelby, I was like, he's one of the greats.
Mm-hmm.
So I was super excited that he got a main role because we've seen him in the past with Inception and Batman, and he did so well. I mean, he plays like the melancholy, like
Yeah.
mentally distraught
Yeah.
character just unbelievably well.
And he does so much
The
with his
pay
eyes in the movie, like
he does.
because we just rewatched it, for this, and it's like
Nice.
his face, his eyes. It's so yeah.
Yeah, he's been known like he's an actor who uses his eyes more than anything. Like you
Hmm.
can just it's incredible. But Emily Blunt and Matt Damon as well, and so
So
good.
good.
Great performances.
Robert
Matt
Downey
Damon.
Jr.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I was hoping for a little more of him,
Yeah.
but he was great in it. Um, there's such great moments. The moment of the bomb, of course,
Yes.
Destroyer of Worlds. It's so chilling.
Hmm.
I think it's an incredible film as well because it's a story that has not really been told
Yeah.
that much.
Hmm.
I don't think many people are like, obviously we know what happens in the cliff notes, but to really delve into this time and like you really feel the tension
Yeah.
of the okay, like we need to do this before the Germans. There's this real intense feeling, and it also captures this gray area of like wrestling with, are we doing the right thing? Is
Yes.
this, it's not like an America forward film or
Mm-mm.
anything that's like really pumping America. It's more just like you feel how fragile humanity is throughout watching it, and like how we're kind of just playing with fire. Um, why doesn't rank high, though? I would say that's a tough question because it is phenomenal. I would say maybe. Well, I want to hear your take on it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll.
Yep, I echo all those things. It's really remarkable. Yeah, why it doesn't rank higher for me is because we're just rewatching, because this is only my second time seeing it, because we saw it in theaters, and it is gripping. Like it propels you through. It's a long movie, but it keeps moving. It keeps pumping. It's really really masterfully well done. It's really masterfully scripted, so it keeps it moving, and it jumps around in the chronology as well. So it has that sort of putting the puzzle pieces together sort of a thing. I think that people love this movie so much because in a lot of ways, at least the way that I would guess, is because in a lot of ways it puts together many of the things that people love about Nolan. It kind of like was almost like the first time that Nolan was able to take all of the different things that people love about his movies and weave them all into one story. And so it kind of brought everybody together. But for me, the thing that holds me back, there's a couple of things, but one is that it doesn't, since it pulls all of the elements in that people love about Nolan, it doesn't like go as deep into any one of those sorts of elements. And for me, the deeper sort of conceptual, psychological, kind of the twists and the turns, like that to
Yeah,
me is where I love Nolan. And to me,
yeah,
so like you take a movie like Memento, which is like all that, or other ones. But this movie doesn't do that as much. I also felt that in a lot of ways it's a very interesting movie, but it does feel, to me, it does feel a little cold. It feels like you can feel the gravity again of the decisions that are being made, and like, oh my gosh, like there's lives that are at stake and the future of the world potentially at stake, and it is really powerful in that respect. But I feel like I still come out at the end of that story being like, I don't really understand this character of Oppenheimer. Like I don't really get who this guy
yeah,
is, and I didn't fully understand his relationship with Emily Blunt's character as well. Like they're both
yeah,
amazing, but I kind of wanted more of that. I also felt like the tension between him and the Robert Downey Jr. character, which in a lot of ways echoes The Prestige, which we'll talk about. This kind of like showdown between these two sort of forces that are kind of moving parallel, but then kind of fighting each other at the same time and sort of tapering to a point. I found it really cool and interesting, but it's at the same time there was so much going on in the movie that I didn't get enough time. Like you said, I didn't get enough Robert Downey Jr. I didn't get enough of those
yeah.
guys together to really feel that sort of conflict. So I think that it kind of, for me, I didn't feel it as deeply as I wanted to.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that when Nolan, I mean, and we saw it in Dunkirk, when Nolan needs to follow historical accuracy,
Yeah.
it doesn't give him the freedom to just really create,
Mm-hmm.
like he's kind of being held by the bit a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think that you can feel that in the film.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. To just throw one little thought about the Odyssey in there, the story of Oppenheimer is based on the book The American Prometheus, so it's kind of a throwback to Greek myth and that sort of aspect of like the man who gives fire to humanity from the gods, and there's an aspect of a little bit of like man's struggle with the gods kind of in that story, and that's a through line I think through a bunch of the films, and also this sense of like science, kind of like the technology and all these things moving so quickly versus like, oh, are we still remaining human in the midst of this, or like how do we hold on to the things that actually make us human or that really matter, that bring meaning to the world. And so I think that's going to be a theme that's I hope we'll see echoed through the Odyssey as well, because that is a story in a lot of ways about man wrestling with the gods. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes in. Okay, well that was number 9 for Oppenheimer, or for Josh it was Insomnia. For me, Oppenheimer at 10. What do we want to give? What do we give Oppenheimer? Do we consider it to be in the C or the B? What category would you place it?
I mean, I think B for sure.
Yeah, I think we're in B territory at this point, so I think we give it. We give it a B. All right, let's go to the next one. So for me, next one is number 8, and for me, number 8 is Batman Begins, the first of the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah. So Batman Begins, and Josh, what about for you?
I'm at Tenet here.
Okay, Tenet. Okay, very interesting. So we will hold our conversation on both of those for a moment. So we have Batman Begins is my number 8. Josh's is Tenet. Let's hold that until we get there. So let's go to the number 7. Number 7 for me is Inception. And
I feel like this is where we're breaking paths a little bit.
Okay, so here's where we start to go. We go off-roading a little bit here. Okay, so we're here at number 7 for me is Inception. What's your number 7, Josh?
Number 7 for me is Batman Begins.
Batman Begins. Okay, so then let's hear talk about Batman Begins. And so this is the first of the Dark Knight movies. Let's see where we've got that here. Batman Begins. Here we go. And this was the first Christopher Nolan movie that I saw. I remember seeing Batman Begins in theaters and liking it, but not like loving it. It wasn't the one that made me really fall in love with Nolan. I was kind of like, oh, this is an interesting take on Batman, but I didn't really necessarily hook me. What are your feelings on Batman Begins?
Yeah. So it's hard for me to even rank this here because, I mean, I think this film changed the scape of superhero movies. Mm-hmm. And I think that alone, you got to pay homage to. We have Christian Bale in the start of his role as Batman, arguably the best Batman that we've seen. I think there's so much I love about it. The music, the pacing, it's not afraid to get dark. Mm-hmm. I think Liam Neeson is unbelievable in it as Ra's al Ghul. I think and it's the start of an arc of an incredible trilogy. Mm-hmm. And I think seeing the rise of Bruce Wayne, him just starting to wrestle with identity, the death of his parents, what it means to be a hero, it wrestles with, that challenge of how do you harness your hatred, because like at the end of the day, it's like, that's what Batman was, his fuel in a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And I think Cillian Murphy, as Scarecrow is really chilling, really great performance. And I think I'm a huge fan of this Batman as well because it plays more of a thriller type. It has like a very intense, grounded, gritty feeling, which for me is, really one of my favorite styles.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, definitely, it did definitely change the landscape of superhero films, and it kicked off the Dark Knight trilogy. And I would say, in hindsight, like this is one of those movies again with Chris Nolan movies. Like the more that you watch them, the better that they get. And like originally, I didn't actually love it that much, but after having seen The Dark Knight and then going back to it, and then seeing The Dark Knight Rises, seeing the trilogy concluded, and going back to Batman Begins. Now, Batman Begins is like one of my favorite films of all time. Like, but like to me, it needs the other pieces. Like, it needs the rest of the story. And so for me, it very much is an origin story. It's a first step. It's a first piece, and a lot of it kind of depends on, it's like, well, where is this going to actually go? And then where he goes with it is just amazing. And so it's a great story. It's a great film. Great Hans Zimmer score. The Hans Zimmer score is so powerful. Also, just like certain moments, like certain lines, like why do we fall, Master Wayne? So why do we fall, Bruce? So that we can learn to pick ourselves back up. And then that theme echoed over and over again. And I love how it comes full circle in The Dark Knight Rises, with him climbing out of the pit, just like his father carries him up out of the well when he's a boy, but then he has to climb as a man, rise up out of the darkness that has pulled him down. And that's a theme throughout Nolan's films, is like, okay, what does it mean to be a hero? Will we allow the experiences and the traumas and the failures of our life to define us so much so that we become this kind of dark, twisted sort of character that we see with Scarecrow, that we see with the Joker and Bane and so forth? Or will we use those, like you say, as fuel to rise, to ascend and become something more? Yeah. Awesome. Love it. Okay. Batman Begins. Where do we rank it? Are we still in B territory here, or are we going to A? I don't know.
Is there anything above A? Or are we doing S?
I think let's just stick with A for that, because I know some people will do S. Okay. We'll just do A for our purposes, I think.
For me, I think it's a B.
Yeah, I think it's an upper B. I think it's like B trending A, right? Like it's almost an A, but I'm with it on that. Yeah, absolutely. Super cool. Okay. So that was, for me, that was my number 8. What was that for you? Is number 7? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think number 7, right? Yes. Okay. So my number 7, as we said, was Inception, which we haven't talked about yet. Let's go to the next. Let's go to number 6. For me, well, why don't you go ahead first this time, Josh? What's your number 6?
All right. Let's see. Let me find it. Memento.
Yes, same. Okay, lockstep. Okay, we're back in lockstep. Okay, so nice. Memento number 6. Kind of, in a lot of ways, it's hard. Like the bottom, it was hard to pick the bottommost film. Yeah, it was hard to pick the top, and then the middle is also hard because
it's all hard.
So close. Like all like we're like splitting hairs of like these are all masterful films, but it's like where do you put it? But I agree. Memento at number 6. So let's talk about Memento. This was his second film. So after Following, he then went on to do Memento, and this is in a lot of ways like this was his breakthrough film. What are your thoughts on Memento?
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched it and just having this feeling of like, wow, I'm watching something really special. Like there's nothing quite like this film. There's been a lot of like replicas of like, it almost reminded me of like Prison Break with the idea of tattooing, something you need to remember on your body. And, but I think that the way that he did it was just incredible. Guy Pearce is amazing.
Yeah.
The pacing, I think, is one of the key elements of this film that's so unique. I mean, just that, and I think the first time he really dabbled with like time and how it distorts your watching of the film is one of those films you have to watch and then like watch again, like within the same week, just 100%. To like comprehend. Kind of similar with Tenet.
Yes.
Again, maybe this was like the prototype of Tenet. With playing with these ideas. Super intense, super melancholy. Like it's got a very like dark feeling throughout the film. Maybe I almost feel like that's like a criticism as well as something I appreciate about it. Because you really just get connected with this character, and like it's hard to watch because you're like just watching him basically just struggle through the whole film, and then with the final reveal, it's like, ouch,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I love it. Exactly, it's so good. It really playing around with the idea of that of objectivity and subjectivity, in the sense that like, there's the black and white, and then there's a cutting back and forth to the color, which is something he does, over and over again throughout his things,
Right.
and the non-chronological leaping around, and the way it informs you as a viewer of like the way in which the story is told, like changes the way that your perspective on everything that's happening. And so you start to
Yeah.
realize, you're like, wait a second, like actually the things that I took for granted, things that I assumed to be the case, may not actually be the case. And of course, this character who has this, recurring amnesia, where he's constantly can't remember things, he can't make, new memories. It causes him to constantly be having to question, like, okay, well, what about this and what about that? In a lot of ways, it's a powerful technique, and it's a powerful, I think, in a lot of ways, almost like a modern parable for like kind of in a lot of ways like the situation that we're in the world, where we're like constantly questioning, like, oh, like, is that actually the thing that I thought it was? Because maybe it's actually this other thing, and I don't know, because like now and everybody's got their hot take on like, well, actually maybe this isn't a hero, maybe this is actually a villain, and the way that the facts can be skewed to manipulate, right, the way that like a situation can be like, and we start to see towards the end of the film, we start to see that there's all these characters who are using him, right? That are
Yeah.
intentionally manipulating his world in order to get him to do the things that they want him to do, which is also a theme that we see in Following as well. But it really
Yep.
plays out, to its full extent in Memento, and we see that in the world today, where this idea that it's like, oh yeah, like those that control the narrative can actually, twist and shape and manipulate, and so we need to be so careful about what we take to be actually true, and the kinds of people that we surround ourselves with as well, like, and the kinds of people that we trust. This idea of like, who do you put your trust in? Can you even trust yourself? It's like, do I even know? Like, because like he lies. Little spoilers, but like there's points where he actually kind of like intentionally lies to himself, and there's these like moments where you're like, oh wow, like how often do we do that?
Right. And it's also brilliant in the sense that it makes you feel incredibly claustrophobic, because you are only given the information that Guy Pearce, the main character, also gets.
Yeah.
So you're following along with looking at his obscure tattoos and like trying to piece everything together, and you're just getting these very quick glimpses of what you think is a chronological maybe order of the film, but really it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so well done. It's one of those movies you watch and you just totally floored by it.
Yes. And I think what's interesting too, because like the ending is a little bit ambiguous. Like it's most, you could take it as being sort of a dark ending, and it is dark, but there's a little bit of ambiguity there. And this is one of the things I love about Nolan, is that not only is he willing to go there in terms of the darkness and like, oh, maybe it's lies and all the rest, but he leaves room. Like he leaves room for hope. He leaves room for the possibility of like, but you might be able to break the pattern, right? Like no matter how many times you've been manipulated, how many times you've been lied to, or how many times you've lied to yourself, like that doesn't necessarily have to define you. Like in a lot of his darker stories, like you do kind of at least ostensibly see people just kind of fall into those patterns and keep repeating them over and over again. But I think that at the end of this film, have to watch it and see what you think. But I think that there's a possibility that he might actually break the pattern, like that it doesn't actually have to continue, yeah. So that's cool. So yeah, anyway, so let's continue there. So that was Memento. Where do we place Memento? I'm sorry, in terms of tier list.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can't not give it an A.
Yeah, I think we're in A territory at this point. Memento, it's an A.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So good. Okay, so that was for me. Memento was number 6. You as well. We're going to number 5 here, and for me, number 5 is Tenet. And you already mentioned Tenet as well. Tenet fell for you at, I think, number 7.
7. Yep.
So let's talk about Tenet. So Tenet, super. Let's see if I can find it here. Where's my Tenet at? There we go. Tenet, the movie right before Oppenheimer, and this was the one that came out during the pandemic, and that's probably what it'll always
Yeah.
be sort of remembered as being. As this was the movie that was like, okay, is this going to bring people back to theaters? You know, like, are people got to go back to theaters to see Tenet? Chris Nolan, a huge proponent of the theatrical experience, and it's like, is this going to be the one that brings people back? And I think a heroic attempt by Nolan to do so didn't really happen.
No,
So people
unfortunately,
they weren't ready, and didn't quite happen. And so this movie came out, and if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, this is actually the one that has the lowest tomato score, and it's still 70%, and the audience score is higher, I think, as well on there. But people were a little bit puzzled by this movie, and so I think for some might place this one pretty low. For us, it's actually pretty high. It's kind of upper middle, I think, for us. But yeah, go ahead and talk about Tenet.
Yeah, not the lowest on Metascore. There's some people believe that Metascore is better than Rotten Tomatoes. A big hot debate on that.
There you go.
Yeah, I think, man, Tenet is really, really cool. It's, again, one of those films you watch and then you need to watch again within like the same week just to wrap your head around it. It's his most complex film by far.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, it's heavy. So I understand that it's like not one of those films that you just want to throw on while you're sitting on the couch and just, you know, you got to lock in for this one. I think it was Robert Pattinson's his first film. Robert Pattinson,
yeah,
which
Pattinson,
he was,
yeah. I think
Pattinson, yep.
Yeah.
And he was incredible.
We all knew him from Twilight. And we're like, who's this guy? And then all of a sudden, turns out the guy from Twilight can act.
Right.
Of course, he's in the Odyssey playing kind of the villain sort of role. So excited for that.
Correct. John Washington's great Batman as well.
What's that?
And John Washington is great in Tenet as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And also just Pattinson also getting to play Batman in the Matt Reeves Batman too. So it all connects. It all connects.
He does great. Yeah, it's just a trippy film. It feels a little Memento-y in the timelines, 100%. You know, play it forward, play it back. It's kind of, you know, running that gambit of tripping you out. I like the sci-fi elements. I think it's really unique, especially for Nolan to, you know, start to use these more kind of like sci-fi ideas. It's a very like grand film too, like with
super
the
epic
sense of like where it's going. It's like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and like almost to a fault. Like towards the end, it's like, oh, this is too much going on. This is too grand, you know, of a concept. And maybe that's really just its major fault. If I had any with it, it was just it's almost like it bit off more than it can chew. For a concise story, but it's intense, it's thrilling, it's a good watch.
No, absolutely, and I agree with you. I think that is people's main contention. I think it's that it feels too much in some ways, and I think that it requires so much engagement. It is basically the same premise, more or less, or the same narrative style as Memento, but worked into the plot, where it's like the sort of idea that, you know, time is moving forward, and then all of a sudden, and then we turn around the corner and we start moving backward. It's like, but what if the story was actually could do that? And it's so mind bending, it's so crazy, and you see people moving backwards, and the scene where John David Washington is fighting with himself and he doesn't even realize. I think that people had to work so hard for it that the thing that I think is the hardest about Tenet, or the reason why a lot of times people don't necessarily love it so much, is that like it's a puzzle box with the emotional core of the movie in the center of the puzzle box. So it's like you have to watch the movie and work your way through it and like get through all the puzzles and try to figure out what the heck is going on, just so that you can care. Like you have to get all the way into there to be like, oh, like this is why any of this actually matters, and I should actually care about it. And it's in there, like it's way down in there. It's kind of like Inception, which we'll talk about, where you go down way down through the maze and then you find the thing that's at the center. Like that's at the center of Tenet. But the problem is, of course, is like you have to be motivated. You have to care, first of all, to want to find to work your way through the puzzle box bad enough to actually get there. And I think a lot of people were just kind of like, you know what, I don't really care. I mean, the main character's name is literally the protagonist. Like, he literally doesn't have a name. So it's like, why do we care about this guy? Like, I have no idea. By the end of the movie, if by the end of the movie, you should actually know why, but only if you really wrestle with it. Like, and by the end of the movie, you're like, oh, actually, so it's, I think that is sort of, it's both the most ingenious thing about it and also the thing that people, have the hardest time with. But I love it.
And I think I love it as well. I think it makes you work for the emotional connection, which is odd for Nolan's more recent films. Like, I feel like you can emotionally connect pretty quickly and understand, the character's plight. I mean, especially in Batman, but and a few others as well. So it's a film that makes you work, but it's worth it if you do.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's super great. And I think the reason why we place it a little bit higher is just because it's like, it's so brilliant. Like, it's so ambitious. It's so brilliant. It's like one of the most brilliant movies I think ever made. It's worth grappling with just for that. All right, let's go to the next one. So that was my number 5 for Tenet. I think we're up to your number 5.
Number 5 or number 4?
We could be on number 4. What was your 5? So for me, we had number 7 for me was Inception. Number 6 was Memento. Number 5 was Tenet. What are we up to for you?
Okay. Yeah. So I believe number 5. Mm-hmm. I made the mistake of not numbering these, but my next one is Dark Knight Rises.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Dark Knight Rises, which we'll hold just for a moment here. And this is the conclusion of the Dark Knight trilogy. And for me, we'll go ahead to number 4, and I'll say that number 4 for me is The Dark Knight Rises. So let's talk about The Dark Knight Rises. I'll say a few things about this. First of all, well, actually, let me, So I remember when this movie came out, like The Dark Knight Rises, I felt like, for me, I was blown away by The Dark Knight. And then for me, I was so nervous about The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I was like, I remember just being like, oh my gosh, like, can he pull it off? Like, and how in the world do you follow up The Dark Knight? Like, how do you follow that? Like, it was so mind blowing. It was so world changing. And then it's like, how do you conclude this story? Is there a way that you can follow this? I mean, who do you even use as a villain? Like, after the Joker with Heath Ledger and everything else, it's like, what are you going to do now? Like the Riddler or like some other thing? Like, I don't know, some villain nobody knows. Like what is this? And then when it was announced that he was doing Bane, like all that we had known from that was like the last time that we'd seen Bane was, I believe, in 1990, whatever it was, is Batman and Robin, where Bane was just like, he was like in a leotard with like tubes coming out of his head, and it was like a weird fever dream, type thing. And like, it wasn't even a character, just like grunted and like threw people across the room and all the rest. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then he's like, oh yeah, and we're also going to do Catwoman, which the last time we had seen Catwoman was the Halle Berry version of Catwoman, which I've never seen, but I've heard was pretty bad. And so, like, okay, all right, how are we gonna do this? And so I was super nervous, and I remember going to get tickets to Dark Knight Rises, and I went early and I got the tickets, but then I was at a meeting, and so I was late to get there, and so the last seat that was left was like down on the floor, like right at the middle. And so I watched the Dark Knight Rises, like looking up like this at the screen, and but like the whole time I'm like watching, I'm like, oh my gosh, is he gonna be able to pull this off? Is he gonna be able to do it? And like sweating it all the way to the end, and then being like, oh my gosh, he did it. It's like, it's amazing. And not everybody loves The Dark Knight Rises. This is another one that some people I think would place lower. The reason why I place this one so high is because it does what I think is almost impossible, which is to follow up The Dark Knight and to conclude this story in a way that is satisfying. It is a way that it is a conclusion that enriches all of the other parts of the story, that brings us full circle back to this whole concept of falling, and why do we fall, and how do we, pick ourselves back up again?
Yeah.
What do we do with the pain? Like, does that come to define you? The idea of self-sacrifice. There's some moments in there where, like, there's a moment where Catwoman, played by Anne Hathaway, who is great, by the way. Like, Anne Hathaway as Catwoman is great. Tom Hardy as Bane. A lot of people complain about the fact that you can't understand him because he's Bane and he talks like this, and we have no idea because he's gargling marbles. But like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Great.
But there's this moment where Catwoman says to Batman, she's like, what do you owe these people? Like, you've given them everything. Like, why don't you just run away? Why don't you just come away with me, and we'll, go off and live happily ever after? And he's like, you've already given them everything. And then Batman turns around and turns to her and he says, not everything, not yet. And then he like turns around and he goes to like make the ultimate sacrifice. And to me, it's like, oh, like that moment just of sacrifice. The ending itself to me is so brilliant. There's just enough ambiguity to be like, okay, like, how do you take that ending? Is it the happy ending, or is it the ultimate sacrifice? It's actually both, kind of, in some ways, which is so cool. There's so much that I love about it. I love that each of the 3 Dark Knight movies is a different kind of movie. That first one is sort of that like psychological thriller type movie that you were talking about. The second one is, in a lot of ways, it is like people have compared it to Heat. It's that very kind of like, that sort of thing. And then the third one is like a war movie. Like, it's an out and out war movie with like thousands of people running through the streets and people brawling and all the rest. And it's it's really visceral. It's really physical. It's really powerful. A lot of great images. What do you think about The Dark Knight Rises, Josh?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I remember seeing it in the theater like 3 or 4 times. I love the introduction with Tom Hardy. I know he got offered a small amount for that role, and he was like, yep, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to kill this, and it really put him on the map. He's also one of my favorite actors. Gosh. Yeah, so, coming off the heels of The Dark Knight, it's a tough act to follow, and I think it does an incredible job. I think, especially, like, you're going to do a villain after the Joker, like, how are you going to pull that off? You know what I mean? And I think Bane was a great choice because while the Joker was the antithesis of chaos, you had Bane, who was like this unstoppable force, but he was fueled by pain. Yeah. And like, it actually almost reminded me of like Gladiator a little bit, where it was like this like intense force, like, I am the redemption, like his pain of, with his, what was that, his sister? Yeah. I guess my only like attack on the film would be I wish they played that a little bit more, Bane's backstory and like why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah, they kind of keep it for the twist at the end, which I love. Yes. I love the twist.
Which is great. Is great. Yeah. The scenes with Batman with Bruce in the pit is like some of the best. Yeah. Like when Bane breaks him, and then you see this like broken Batman, and you see that moment of him just like choosing not to give up in a place where everyone has given up. It's like literal like the pit of hell.
Yes, absolutely.
And just this moment of just sitting in the cell watching the TV, watching Gotham just be destroyed, and sacrificing himself for others who didn't even want him to. He was rejected. He was so wow, what a powerful story.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and there's some Christ imagery in there, of course. Again, the archetype,
sure, yeah,
which is super cool. And we talked about a little bit too on the channel, a little bit like the idea of the descent into hell, the idea of going down into the underworld, which is something that we see Odysseus doing in the Odyssey. Before he can return home, he has to go down to hell. Like, he has to go down and confront the ghosts and the darkness and himself. He has to be broken broken. And like you said, that image of Bane breaking him, like, from the comic books, too. It's like, it's such a powerful image. I love it. Okay, so that was The Dark Knight Rises, and let's continue on. So that was for me number 4. What is your? I think we're on your number 4. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think we were out of sync here. I think we were on the same, because Dark Knight was my number 4.
Okay, and that's me as well then.
Yeah.
So are we at our top 3 now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Oh, so real quick though, tier list. I think Dark Knight Rises. Would you give it an A? Yeah,
I feel like everything's an A.
And I gotta say, just to give the devil his due as well, like, there's people who don't love The Dark Knight Rises just because they felt like there's some weird plot choices, and like the idea of like trapping the cops in the sewers and stuff like that, and like it going on for months, and like, all this kind of thing. Or Batman being on the other side of the world and then he gets back and things like that. There's some liberties, and there's some things. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but I just think it succeeds really phenomenally. Okay, so I think all right.
Hold on one moment. Yeah, moment. You are correct.
Okay.
That was my number 5, and
okay, so we're at number 4 now for you.
Yeah, for me. Yeah. So, right. It's always tough. It's always a tough choice.
Yeah, very tough, especially as we're almost in the top 3 here. So, you're still deciding?
Let me just triple.
I'm
trying to triple check that my count is correct.
That is right. Yeah, I have 4 more. I think we've gotten up to my 4, but we haven't yet talked about my number 7, which was Inception, which we haven't talked about, and then I have my top 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 4 for me is. This was a tough one for me. I was really wrestling with this.
Yeah.
But it is going to be Inception for me.
Okay. All right. So number 4. So we can finally talk about Inception. Okay. So this is the one that we actually are the most divided on of all of them. We've actually been really close on almost all of them. For me, Inception is number 7, which is kind of like in the middle of the pack, lower middle for me, I think. Or actually, it's almost dead middle. It's like dead middle for me. And for you, it's number 4, almost in the top 3. So why don't you talk about it first then? What do you love about Inception? I mean, I remember when it came out, it was a big deal, this movie. Like, it was a huge blockbuster success. And it was the first of his movies to get nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards, because this was following, if I'm remembering this correctly, this was following the big snub of The Dark Knight. Like, The Dark Knight was like critically acclaimed and everything else, and then it got like very much snubbed at the Oscars, which is a lot of the reason why the Oscars went to including more Best Picture nominees at that point. But following that up, it was almost like the Academy was like, "Oh, sorry about that." Inception. Like, here, give it all the nominations. Of course, didn't it won mostly in the technical categories, but people loved Inception, and that incredible Hans Zimmer score, that thing. So, but talk about Inception.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to dislike, I feel like, with this film. I mean, we have Joseph Levitt, we have Leonardo Elliott Page. Like, this film, to me, I think I've watched more than any other Nolan film. From music to the cast to the idea. I mean, it's such a cool idea.
Yes.
About invading other people's dreams. I mean, Agreed. That's never been done. So well done. Like, the visuals of this film hold up incredibly too. I mean, 16 years old, and I watch it and I'm like, this looks so cool. It's one of my favorite concept films of his. And I think it has it all. And that's what's really why it has such a high rating for me, is that it has the blockbuster delights of like incredible action and visuals. It has incredible acting, it has incredible music, and it has the emotional ties of Cillian Murphy's character and like his struggle, his deep deep down struggle with his father and wanting that approval.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it hits every box for me.
Mm-hmm.
That I wrestled with it being even higher, but I was like, let me be careful. But it is.
Okay.
It is. Oh well, and not only the Cillian Murphy thing, but it's got the Leonardo relationship, and like, oh man, it's just so good.
Yeah. Okay, so let me push back on this. Let me say, first of all, I agree with all that. I think it is. I think it's really. It's so ambitious. It's another one. It's very much in the Tenet wheelhouse, right? It's like it was his most ambitious movie until he did Tenet, and then you're like, okay, well now it's Tenet, right? Like, but it's so ambitious, and it sets up so much so fast. Like that movie, like in the first 15, 20 minutes, was like, okay, we're in a world where people can go into other people's dreams, and there's corporate espionage going on in their minds, because and there's these different levels of consciousness, and you can go down, but you can actually get lost, and if you go down too far, you end up in this limbo world inside, and you could be there and because time goes more slowly the further down that you go, and all this stuff, and you're like, what? And there's architects who can build dream worlds so that you can fool people into thinking that they're asleep. You're like, what is? And so it does so much, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's so good. It's so well done, and it's visually incredible. And the scenes of the train going through the city and all that kind of stuff, and the upside down, the fight in the hotel on the ceiling. And
it is turning.
It's just until which was the most the coolest action sequence of all of his stuff, until we got John David Washington literally fighting himself backwards, and now I'm like, okay, well that's kind of the coolest. But
that was pretty.
Cool. They're pretty close. They're pretty close, those two. But it is great. But the thing that again I want to deduct it for a little bit is, I think with Tenet, I think it tries to do too much. It just has so much going on. It has to set up so much. It has to get you into the thing so much that I think that it bypasses for me some of the emotional notes. I don't feel like I get enough of Cobb. I don't get enough of his story and his relationship with Mal. The characters, one of the things about it is almost infamously, the characters, what is anybody's name in this movie? Cobb, Mal, this one, that one, who are these people? I have no idea. It's oh yeah, there's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, there's Tom Hardy, there's Leonardo DiCaprio, but
nobody has a lot of screen time. It's true.
And it's because they can't, right? And in some ways, I almost felt I almost kind of wanted an Inception trilogy, It's several movies. That's what works so well with the Batman movies, is you get the time to actually start to care about these people and these characters in this world, which I can understand Nolan not wanting to do that, because it's okay, I already did a trilogy. I don't want to spend the next decade of my life making Inception movies, which is totally understandable. But I feel also as a result of that, I don't care that much. And I feel the core relationship, or the core thing, or the core twist that has to land, is the thing with Leonardo DiCaprio's character and his wife, and the whole how they go down into her mind, and then there's this question mark at the center of her being, where it's oh, did he place the question in her mind of is any of this real? Is he responsible for her death? That is the center thing, and that has to hit. That has to really hit. And I want it to, but it doesn't.
It hits for me.
Does it? Okay, so for some people, it hits.
For me.
For some people, I'm I want more from this. I love that whole you're waiting for a train and it doesn't matter. That whole thing. That's so good. And the other thing too, I'll just say as well, even the thing about going into Cillian Murphy's mind, to me, it's very interesting. But at the end of the day, they're just going into get him to make a business decision. It's it's not
it's a heist story at the end of the day.
It is a heist story, exactly. And I kind of want the emotion. I wanted the emotional baggage, or the goal to be a little bit bigger, which is what I loved about Tenet, where it's Tenet's oh yeah, this is got a heavier sort of thing to it, but it's really good. It's really good. Okay, so that's Inception. Oh, now here we got to argue about tier though. I don't know, man. Like, I want to put it at B. I
It's
want
A
to
for
put it.
me.
It's
It's A
A.
for
Okay.
me.
All right. I'm gonna give you that one. I'm gonna give you that
All
one.
right.
I'll let you have an A on that because I think most people will agree with you. But for me, it's
All right. All right.
A minus, A minus, trading B plus. I don't know. But okay, we're down to it now. We're up to our last top three, and we have the same top three. Is that correct? Well, we'll find out in a second here. But yes, I believe we
Well,
have the
yeah.
same top three. The question is, what order do we have them in? And so, if you've been taking note at home, you'll know which are our top three here. But we're about to find out. So let's take a look at number three. Why don't you give us your number three first?
All right, it's gonna be Interstellar for me.
Yeah, it is. Interstellar, number three for me as well. I'll just say,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
yep, absolutely. It's Interstellar. Interstellar for me used to be back in like the middle of the pack. It was like 5 or something like that. And then we went and we watched it in theaters in IMAX. It went back to IMAX for its 10-year anniversary and went and watched it in theaters. And just like, I was so melted like by this experience, like emotionally, visually, musically, everything, just everything about this movie. I was like, this is one of the greatest movies ever made. like this is just one of the greatest. But it takes a few times of watching, I think, to really get it. What do you love about Interstellar? What are your thoughts on Interstellar?
Yeah, I mean, sucker for Matthew McConaughey always.
Arguably, maybe Matthew McConaughey's greatest performance. Maybe.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah,
it's up there. This one was really, I mean, so 2014, right? So this was Nolan's most emotional film, I would say, up to this point. Yeah. Quite possibly. Great performances all around. The Hans Zimmer score is almost unbeatable.
I want to go a step further. I want to say that Interstellar is Christopher Nolan's most emotional movie, period.
Yeah, I could agree with that. It's down to its bones, and that's what I love about it so much, is that it is a story about a father's relationship with his children. Yes. And that takes the premise, and it's a story about the end of the human race. So it's there's a lot going on, but the fact that it puts the focus on this struggle of a father and his children and what that means to him, and again, the idea of sacrifice, right? It's what's the greater good? It's being a present father or saving the world. It's a struggle to make that call, and you witness the pain of making either decision and what it looks like to struggle with that. It's very, very cool.
So powerful. And obviously there's similarities to the Odyssey in the sense that it's a journey to save the world, but then it's also a journey home. It's to go, to the farthest place. And he has to, in a lot of ways, Matthew McConaughey's character has to go down into hell also. He goes down into the black hole. He goes down, and in a lot of ways it's really interesting because when he goes down into the black hole and he encounters the Tesseract, where it's everything melts apart. To me, the ending of that movie, some people have a little bit of issue with some of the ending of that film. But for me, the ending makes the whole story. It's a great 2001 A Space Odyssey journey, kind of a thing. And it's fascinating with, the idea of time dilation and black holes and, all this kind of, stuff and relativity and all that. But the moment when he goes down the black hole and then he finds himself in his daughter's bedroom, it's to me, I was I remember my eyes getting big and being oh my gosh, this is either going to be incredible or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I'm not sure which it is, but what is going on? And this whole thing where he's floating through this kind of world, and he's reliving his his past decision, right, which he sees as a mistake. Like, was leaving home the wrong choice? Like when his daughter's telling him stay, and he's like, no, but I have to go. It's like, was it the wrong choice? And then he's telling himself, stay, like, don't go, you idiot. Like, why would you leave your family? Why would you abandon your family even for the greater good? It's not worth it. The sacrifice isn't ultimately worth it. And then it's like, and it's this moment where it's like he's reliving it over and over again, and it's like it's hell. It's like it's him living through the pain of that over and over. But then there's redemption, and this is what I love so much, is that Nolan, he always weaves that, like, right, not always, but often weaves that.
Not always.
Right, exactly. But usually there's that possibility of redemption, and the idea that at the end of the day, Interstellar is both this like 2001: A Space Odyssey incredible story, and it's also a ghost story. Like he is the ghost, in his daughter's room, right? That he's the one speaking to her. And the idea too, this idea that like Nolan like fuses together these two ideas: the idea of gravity, that like gravity, like it can affect time and the way that we perceive the world, and then also love. That there's this idea that like love is like gravity. It's like it's that which pulls us to one another, and it's actually the most powerful force. And that that maybe it even transcends time. That maybe our ability to love is not limited by the bounds of space time, and that it's actually love that saves the human race. That it's that which saves the world. Like that's wild. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's so good. I love it. And I think this was another one that has a relatively low score on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think it's a lot of it because like it makes people wrestle. It was hard for people to like get their heads fully around it. But I think if you can get your head around it, it's so good. Such great moments. The Matthew McConaughey crying scene is like,
oh man,
melts me every time. Every time.
Wrecks me.
So good. All right, we're up to our top two. Let's see if we have the same top two or if it's going to be different here. Interstellar, obviously, it's an A. At this point, all of our are
they're all
going
A's.
to be A at this point, or S if you're doing S. But okay, let's go to number two. For me, number two. Now I've gone back and forth on the top two, so I've gone back and forth a little bit. And so I'm at number two is The Dark Knight.
We're in sync.
We are in sync. Okay, all right.
We're
so number two, The Dark Knight. Here it is. Where are we at here? The Dark Knight. I remember not really knowing too much about Nolan, and then hearing about The Dark Knight and being like, okay, what is this? And then going to see it. I actually don't think I saw it in theaters. I think I saw it after it came out, shamefully enough. But it was unbelievable. So good. I mean, I think it is the greatest superhero movie ever made, bar none. I think it changed the landscape of blockbuster movies and superhero movies. It is the Empire Strikes Back of the Dark Knight trilogy. It is that moment of going down into the abyss. Heath Ledger's Joker is incredible. Some people criticize a little bit because they feel that Heath Ledger overshadows Christian Bale a little bit in the sense that the Joker is what you remember from this movie. But I push back on that because for me, it's like the Joker is that like he's that like dynamic force. It's that that insanity that pushes Batman to the limit, that brings Bruce Wayne to that place of questioning. It's like, how far can I go before I become the villain? What is it within me? What am I actually willing to sacrifice? And it's like, if you don't have that, you don't have a story, and you don't have the interrogation scene between him and the Joker, one of the most powerful, one of the most iconic. And I'll say one other thing about this one too. I think underrated and doesn't get talked about enough is Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, Two-Face. The Two-Face character arc is so impeccable. It's so powerful. And it is in some ways kind of almost our access point, because we're kind of not Batman and we're kind of not the Joker, but we kind of could be Harvey Dent. Like there is sort of this like, there's this weakness, this possibility of like, hey, I'm trying to do the right thing, but it's like, how far could you go before you begin to fall? Some people didn't like the fact that you don't really get Two-Face very much. Like you just get, Harvey Dent and then the twist. But to me, it's impeccable. It's a perfect film in so many ways. So many great scenes. So powerful. So moving. I'll say one other thing about this real quick too. The fact that they kill the girl, that the girl dies.
Yeah.
Like
that's the most wild twist.
Like I watched them and I'm like, no way. Like they're not gonna kill. Like you can't kill the love interest of, like no. Like you, and then she dies and you're like, oh my gosh, there's no rules. Like there's no rules. Like this thing is off the rails. Crazy. Talk about the Dark Knight, Josh.
Which, by the way, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jake's sister, did such a phenomenal job in that role. So good,
and took over from Katie Holmes, I think, in the first film.
Yeah,
and some people didn't necessarily feel great about that switch, but I
mean, it was weird.
Yeah, it was a little strange.
It was weird, but
time has also passed a little bit between the two movies, so I'm kind of like okay with like, oh yeah, the character has grown and changed a little bit, and yeah, I think she's great.
Yep. Yeah, Heath Ledger's Joker performance is arguably the best villain on television ever. Yeah. He's just unmatched. And yeah, I mean, it's such an intense film. It makes you question a lot. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think this is maybe Nolan's most like gray area, moral, questioning humanity kind of film ever, because like not only do you have the Joker's actions and you're following his arc, but you're also following Batman starting to match that level of chaos to try to defeat him. And there's the great scene with Morgan Freeman's character where he's like, when Batman's tapping into everybody's phones and he's like, after this I'm not working for you, this is, you've crossed the line.
This is wrong.
Right. Exactly. But at the end, I mean, you get the understanding that it's like, well, chaos will burn itself out, know, that there's, like, let that fire loose and, it's going to be self-destructive in the end. Just great performances all around. Great movie.
Yeah, that's a great concept. Yeah, just the idea that evil eats itself eventually, it destroys itself.
Yeah.
But also like what lengths will you go to before you start to see yourself unravel in that way? Yeah, really, really powerful. Great film. And so that's The Dark Knight. And I think that the one thing that kept it from the top spot for me was the fact that it is the middle piece of a trilogy. And it's like, it's the key.
Yes.
Like it has to work.
Yes.
Right? It has to work in order to then bring us to the final piece. But if you take it as a movie by itself, it's a middle piece, right? And so it's like you watch it by yourself, like it is still the best of the three Dark Knight movies, but to me, you need the whole story. And so for me, it wasn't quite like it used to be at my number one, but I kind of knocked it down just a little bit because I felt like it doesn't quite, if you just are considering it as a film by itself, it doesn't quite get there. Not entirely. Which brings us to our number one, which is, of course, Josh, what is our number one?
The Prestige.
The Prestige.
Which I did not think that this would be your number one. I'm actually very surprised.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
This is my favorite.
Yeah, likewise. This was a film that kind of when it came out, it was a little before Nolan kind of had really hit the big time. And so I think a lot of people kind of missed this movie a bit. It also came out, it just came out kind of like a weird time and it was well received at the time. But a lot of people kind of missed this one. And I just want to say, if you haven't seen The Prestige, you need to go back and watch this movie. It's one of the greatest, I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's absolutely brilliant. It's Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. Also, Scarlett Johansson is in there, and David Bowie.
I just saw that. Wait, who's David?
Yeah. Exactly. I watched it. I was like, wait a minute, David Bowie? Do you want to take a guess? David Bowie.
I'm drawing a blank.
He plays Nikola Tesla.
Oh, right. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah. I don't think I've ever realized
and
that.
He's great.
Andy
Serkis has a small role as well.
Yes, of course.
Of course. Yep. Michael Caine has got to be in it as well. But just such an incredible film. Say a few things about The Prestige, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting release because he dropped this in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So just an odd time to come out. It came out as the same year as The Illusionist.
That's
as
right,
well.
with
And
Edward
they were
Norton,
like
I
very
think.
similar films.
Yeah, and people were kind of
which
is this the
also
same
is a
movie?
great movie.
It
I
is.
love The Illusionist, by the way. Yeah, the Prestige, I think, captures all of Nolan's best qualities.
Mm-hmm.
It plays around with time, one of his big things. It has one of the best twists in a movie I've ever seen.
Several of the best twists, I think.
Yes, yeah. Agreed. One of the best cast lists of Nolan's of all time.
Mm-hmm.
The music is utterly incredible. And just like the emotional core of the film, like you just relate to these characters maybe more than any other Nolan film that I've watched.
Yeah.
Every time I watch it, I just like understand both sides of, because it's a war between, one magician and another. And like, you understand the ego and you understand the love interest and you like get all of the reasons behind why each character is doing it.
Yes.
And it's also interesting because like, it's not as simple as one is the villain and one is the hero.
Exactly.
Like they both have these twisted qualities of why they're doing what they're doing. And like at the end of the day, it is this idea of like the dangers of chasing fame and of making a name for yourself and what passion can bring you to, like what's the end of the road of if you chase something so aggressively. It's just, man,
I would say obsession is like a running theme, like through most of maybe all of Nolan's films. This idea of like getting obsessed with something, and like when have you chased the thing so far that like now you've actually lost your soul? Like like at what point does that happen? I think there's also like I said, it's like these dueling magicians of Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, and there's also like this idea, there's this weird concept that gets played around with of like, what if there were two of you? Like there's this like kind of like and there's like there's a psychological aspect here too there, which is the idea that like for all of us, like we always have two of us in some way, like we're always divided. Like it's that kind of thing of like, what if you can't trust yourself, like, or what if it's like, are you a whole person? Like, what does it mean to be a whole person? Like, to be a whole human being, and like how we fragment ourselves and how our divided loyalties will pull us in different directions if we're not careful, and that you could potentially actually fragment yourself, infinitely. And that's a really interesting concept there. I think that, there's also, again, the possibility of redemption in it. It's a very dark story in a lot of ways, but there is, in some of these twists, there's kind of like, well, how far can you go before there's no return? And then there's like sort of, again, this possibility of sacrifice, and this possibility of like, even at the bottom, it's like there's still the possibility that you could sacrifice and encounter some measure of redemption from that, which is really, really cool. There's also an interesting parallel between the two magicians and this thing with like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, who are these like two dueling, like technological magicians, you could say, at the same time. And I think that there's something there too, which I think maybe may re-echo in the Odyssey as well, about the sort of like tension and conflict between like science, technology, science on the one side, and like the supernatural and like actual magic on the other side of things, and like how we kind of want both, like, and we kind of need both, and our world is sort of made up of both, but the two are sort of at odds and they're kind of battling with one another. And it's like, is there a way to like find harmony between the two? I think it's a really interesting sort of abstract concept there. And
I mean, we're in spoiler territory, but
spoilers.
With Christian Bale's character being one is a double and one is not, you have this idea that I think we all do, where it's like you have this work persona and you have this home persona.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yes.
like
Yes.
this
Oh, that's so
idea
good.
that like we, like you said, fraction ourselves, that it's like there's a danger in trying to be multiple people. In fact, not only
Yeah.
a danger that it will collapse,
Yeah. Yes.
that, you know, you can't fraction your life to a
Yeah.
point where it's like, okay, like this character's all focused in work and this
Yes.
character's all focused towards family,
Yes.
and that it's, you know, you have to find
Yes.
the harmony. You can't
Mm.
you can't divide it in two, you know what I mean?
And I think at the end of the day, that is a theme that runs through all of his stories and a lot of these great stories. And I think we're going to see it in the Odyssey too. It's like, is like the idea of the journey home. Like the Odyssey is about a man going home, like to his family and all this, and coming back to his kingdom and reclaiming the throne and all that. And in a lot of ways, it's a psychological journey, because it's this idea of like, what do you do when you're broken? What do you do when you're broken into lots of pieces? It's like, can we, like, going home is about becoming whole again, right? It's like, what does it mean? Like, you know, can you get back to a place where you're actually a whole person again? And there's aspects of like the truth. It's like, what is your relationship with the truth? It's like, have you lied so many times that you don't actually know what the truth is anymore? Like, have you bought into the lies so many times that you're like, I don't actually believe that there is an objective truth? Or is there something at the core, right? This is the Inception thing again. Is there something, you know, the spinning top or whatever it is that holds you to like, this is what's real, like this is the real, and I can hold to this, you know, even against all odds and against all of the things that are pulling me in all these different directions. And so yeah, very good. Well, let's leave it there. It's super good to get to just talk through these movies. And I want to just invite our listeners, go back and check out the movies, the films of Christopher Nolan, and go see The Odyssey, which is playing in theaters at the time of this recording. We're going to go see it in a couple days on an 8-story IMAX screen. Very excited for that. And afterward, we'll give a little kind of reaction type video, and I'll do maybe a little slightly longer review as well. So Josh, appreciate you taking the time to talk about movies, and we'll have to get together and do it again sometime soon and watch some movies together.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you. And to our listeners, thanks for being here as well. And so go check out those movies, go check out The Odyssey, and we look forward to seeing you right back here in the near future.